Find the sum by hand, then use a calculator to check your work. So we're doing some more work with signed numbers, but now we have signed fractions. So we got to remember some things that we've learned along the way about working with fractional numbers. Our rules for working with the signed numbers are still the same. Just because the type of number that we're adding changes doesn't mean that the rules for adding them change. So remember what we've talked about before, that if the signs are the same, we're going to take the sum and keep the sign of the two numbers. And if the signs are different, we're going to take the difference. We're going to subtract the two numbers and keep the sign of the larger absolute value. In our first example, we have 5/8 plus negative 7/8. Hopefully by now we're starting to get a sense of being able to look pretty quickly and say, okay, there's a positive 5/8, there's a negative 7/8, their signs are different. And since their signs are different, we want to subtract. We want to take the difference. So when we do subtraction, we want to have the larger of the two numbers first. Well, if we look at 5/8 and 7/8, we might be saying, well, how are we supposed to know which number is bigger? Because the denominators are exactly the same, I can just compare the numerators. 7 is more than 5, so 7/8 is going to be more than 5/8. So we'll go ahead and set up our subtraction problem as 7/8 minus 5/8. We're subtracting the absolute values. Now 7/8 minus 5/8, remember how to work with fractions. If we're subtracting fractions that have the same denominator, the denominator stays the same, and we just work the operation to the numerator. So we're just going to be doing 7 minus 5 to give us our new numerator of 2. Keep track of our signs here. Remember that the one that had the larger absolute value, the 7/8, that one was negative. So my final answer is going to have a negative. Now this is where we have to be a little careful when we're working with fractions because we're not done quite yet. We've done the subtraction, but notice our fraction isn't in its simplest form. So if we come down here and write our final answer of negative 2/8, we're putting that negative sign out in front, how we want our final answer. Well, that's going to be negative. We're looking for a common factor to cancel out of the 2 and the 8 of the numerator and the denominator. 2 is the same thing as 2 times 1. 8 is the same thing as 2 times 4. And notice here, 2/2, that just equals 1. Those guys are going to cancel out. So my final answer is negative 1/4. In our second problem, both of the signs are the same. So we're just going to add and keep the sign. 3/7 plus 5/7 equals 8/7. And because they were both negative, we need to be sure that we keep that negative as part of our final answer. Negative, negative. 8/7 doesn't simplify. That's as good as it gets. 8 and 7 don't have any common factors, so we can just leave our final answer in this form. We don't want to change it to a mixed number. In algebra, we like improper fractions better. So there's our final two answers.